Here we are, episode 49 of the Trash Talk Business Podcast. If you're looking to get out of the junk removal, demolition, deconstruction, dumpster hauling business, you've come to the right place. As always, I'm joined by my compadre, Casey Bubba Lawrence, to talk about how we can grow, scale, and build our junk removal dream. Casey, what are we talking about today?
Man, today is going to be a little impromptu sesh because we had a no-show on the books. That's okay because I think I'm best when we improvise.
That's correct.
So I think today we talk about – go ahead.
No, I was going to say, for those of you that have been on the podcast before, you know that our show prep is like, hey, how do we say your last name? Cool, let's go. Because one of the things that drives me nuts on podcasts or even radio shows or hell, even like back in the day, I used to watch Jay Leno. Like they're like, oh, during the break we were saying this. It's like, man, that's the good stuff. So there's A, that, and then B, here's the deal: junk removal. Like I want to lean into operations possibly a little bit. Reason being is shit happens, right?
I love operations.
I love operations, and this is a classic operations. It's like, well, we got the time set aside, everything's ready to go, and the customer doesn't show up. What do you do? Right? How do you, like Casey said, make lemonade out of lemons? And so that's what we're doing. So this is, and we haven't had a session, you and I bullshitting in a while. No. So pitter patter. Let's get at her. I got a fresh cup of coffee, good attitude. I mean, what else do you need in this world? There you go. What do you have?
Pretty much hopped up.
You got that iced coffee, right?
No, this is the nitro cold brew. It's pretty good stuff. Strong as hell.
It's the same shit. Here's the other thing. I want to let our listeners know. For listeners that have not met Casey and I, seen our videos or seen pictures of us on the interwebs, I put a picture up on Facebook, or actually a couple of weeks ago when it was up when we went to JunkCon a couple months ago now, and I reposted this last week. Casey and I are very formidable individuals, right? I'm 6'4", 2.25. Casey's what, 6'1", 6'2", right? Yeah. 2.5. Where are you at? 240? Where are you pushing?
6'2", yeah, 6'2". And I'm weighing in 240.
Here's the deal.
In the mornings?
Casey, in the mornings, before you're constitutional. Here's the deal. Casey looks like a formidable individual. But once you meet him, you realize he is soft. We're talking passion fruit margarita, smoke a lot of garbage in his coffee, soft.
Yeah, so I don't like lattes, though. So
what's that?
I will say this was a cold brew. It was black. I mean, black coffee. Nothing with it. Strong. No sugar. No sweetener. No cream.
All right. I think of people. I think of iced
boneless
coffee
wings.
Soft. Yeah, boneless wings. Oh my god!
Passion fruit margaritas.
Thank you. Boneless wings.
Yeah.
Chicken nuggets. Yeah. Casey loves himself some chicken nuggets. And his argument is, I don't want to get sauce in my beard. How soft? That's soft.
I don't have a beard anymore. Maybe I can switch up,
Yeah, why'd you shave? Wife did you after you or what? You just
honestly, I started looking at pictures and I was like, wow, I was like shit with this burly beard. Yeah. I cannot believe I was walking around like that for years. So
years.
So I will say this. I mean, I miss it sometimes, but I don't miss, having to do this crap and get lunch from breakfast, It's just one of those things. But I will say that you may think I am soft, but if you have not tried the passion fruit margarita, you're missing out.
At the Cheesecake Factory, unofficial sponsor.
Absolutely.
Cheesecake Factory. That's the other thing. Casey and I have been fortunate to travel, whether we're banging jobs or going to conferences. I was gonna say making guest appearances, but we're not there yet. Right? We're gonna get there. And we love going to local places. Like that's our jam. However, there are times when we are knee deep in work and we're tired and we're hungry and we're like, we'll just take anything. And Casey's default answer is Cheesecake Factory, which I've never gone to Cheesecake Factory with him, but he has been known to close down the Cheesecake Factory bar, drinking passion fruit margaritas.
God, where were we? The second time was in Georgia or Ohio. I don't remember. It was during the McDonald's job, and I bought because we did such a good job. I bought everybody dinner that night at the Cheesecake Factory, and they were about to close, and I was like, "That ain't happening. Like we still got to eat." So we ate, and they stayed open a little later. And I think we stayed till closing, till midnight or whatever they closed, some soft hour. But I mean, we shut it down.
Final point. I'll make before we jump into the operations on the Trash Talk Business Owners VIP Listeners Facebook page. Holler at your boy. For the record, we accept basically anybody unless you look like a spammy person. The only reason we put member requests on there was to get rid of the hey, how much do I charge for this picture of crap outside of somebody's house and or buy my marketing services. Anyhow, so last point. If you want to hang out with Casey and I and go get passion fruit margaritas at the Cheesecake Factory, I'm sure there's got to be one in New Orleans. We will be in New Orleans May 1st through the 4th at the WasteExpo, part of a Waste 360's Insiders, promo code Insider7 to get a discount on your ticket. New Orleans, great place to eat. May is a beautiful time of year because it's not ridiculously hot there yet. I may or may not be in town the weekend ahead of time. I haven't. My schedule is available, and I love New Orleans. So 50-50, I come in on that Friday or Saturday.
You should go into DFW. We just drive there.
How far is it? How far of a drive is it?
Like 5 hours.
Of your terrible ideas, that ain't the worst.
No,
we could shoot content in the truck,
dude.
And are you driving?
I could. I mean, it's a possibility.
I mean, it's stupid. I mean, I'm literally adding 5 hours of travel to hang out with you in the truck.
Yeah,
like
that's true.
That math ain't great, right? Because the flight to DFW versus New Orleans is probably 10-minute difference, right? Might be even farther to go to Dallas because I got to go whatever. All right. Anyways, May 1st through the 4th, Insider 7. There's your promo code. Let's get into it. So, you know what? I'm going to jump in right now. So I'm on the Trash Talk Business Owners VIP Listeners Facebook page that we created. Apparently, someone said recently on our page that there was another Trash Talk junk removal page that got shut down. Whatever. This is for those that are serious in the junk removal game. This is the place to hang out. So we got a listener, Carol, out there in Maryland. She recently put up, Carol, she's actually part of a franchise system. And shout out to those franchise systems out there. People like her come onto our podcast to ask about operations and systems because, lo and behold, franchises don't always offer the answers, right? So you spend a lot of money for marketing. Yes, that's a direct shot against that franchise.
I'm pretty sure they recommend go listen to Trash Talk Business Podcast for further guidance on your question.
Yeah, their franchisees come onto our podcast page to listen to you, the individual owner-operators, because their franchisor is lackluster at best in providing the answers. Anyway, so she said, hey, guys, I'd like to discuss systems. I have daily checklists for the crew leader, the opening and closing, in addition to the DOT inspections, weekly and daily driver logs. It's such a simple model. Why can't I get the guys to follow the lines? That's basically it, right? That's she has systems and processes. Casey, you and I have very similar systems and processes every day. Let's talk about that. And then also talk about how do you get buy-in? Because that's a whole other thing, right? Operations and systems are awesome. And what you want, I talk about this in my book, Words Fucking Matter, use language or retrain your brain to use language that serves you. Coming out June 14th. I'm full of all the promos today. All the plugs are getting into this episode because we have unlimited time. I'm just going to sit here and plug things. Anyways, how do you get buy-in versus compliance? So, Casey, let's talk about systems, and let's talk about how do you get buy-in.
So I'll tell you this. First off, I want to preface this by saying, before I was in junk removal, the last time I was in a leadership position, I was in the military. And so immediately I was kind of behind the curve because in the military, you have different ways of instilling direction, right? Like, hey, do this or else this is going to happen. Unfortunately, in the civilian world, you can't really do the same kind of consequences. And it's very hard to hold others accountable when they have the freedom to tell you to F off, and then they can leave whenever they want. So for me, it was a lot of trial and error, but the systems and processes were there, not just for me as a business owner or the business, but it's also for the employees to help them not just manage the day, but keep them safe, keep them proactive, at the same time to make their jobs as simple as it could be. I mean, how many of us have ever shared a vehicle or shared an office with someone and you get into it and it's a complete disaster, it's trash, it's a mess. that sucks. You're like, man, this is disrespectful. Now I got to clean this shit up because I don't like, working in a shit space. So, it's a way to not just help out your business, but to help out the employees. And I think to get others on board with you, you ask questions. I would have meetings, weekly meetings, obviously, but I'd always have monthly meetings where I would ask them, what do they want to see different? What do they want to see change, or what would they like to see either go away? Now, it doesn't necessarily mean they're going to get their way, but at least I get their feedback and I can kind of see what they're interested in seeing as a leader. So, when you have these systems in place, you have to understand you're putting these in place to not just push liability away from you, but also to prevent business from stopping, slowing down, costing more money, and also, the safety of your people. So getting together with them. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, so here's something, an adage I heard years ago. It's a great argument, right? Because what you just said was, right, you're putting this in place for the benefit of your employees. Now, ultimately, the goal is that your employees are doing the things that are necessary for them to operate efficiently, yada, yada. Right? Whenever I've got pushback from employees before, like, oh, we know what our job is. This is a simple pushback. I ask them, hey, you ever talked to a pilot before? I'm like, yeah, I think that's pretty significant job, right? What about a surgeon? Oh yeah, they're probably pretty highly educated individuals, right? So do you think they go through checklists before they put that plane in the air, or before they cut you open? 100%. And they look at you and they're like, you could get the smartest people in the world that've been doing this for years, 10, 12 years of education, and they still go through a checklist every time before they move forward with the next step. Like, that is a very simple nugget. And I've used it. I've yet to get any pushback from anybody that was meaningful that could argue that point. So remember, these process, again, the goal is to make the company more money, obviously, right? Be efficient, but it's a way to do it where the employees can work smarter and not harder. Because as a business owner, your job is to get results either way. You can either do it hard or you can do it smart. Processes and systems and checklists are the smart way of doing it, so you're not reinventing the wheel constantly.
Absolutely. A great example of that, right? And so we had a skid steer. We had a flatbed trailer that we would tow our skid steer around on. And we had a set of chains, a set of binders. And I would tell everybody through, I'd have them all go through the training on not just how to load and unload, but how to secure the skid steer to the trailer. And I did it to where I was like, this is the only way to do it. This is the standard. You're not going to do it an easier way or a quicker way. This is how you do it.
Yep.
And I wanted them to understand why too. I didn't want them to ask, but I wanted to give them the reason. And the main reason was you start from literally the driver's seat, and it actually makes you go all the way around the entire vehicle. So when you're done, you've done a complete circle around your setup. So you can see any deficiencies that may, be present. You can see something hanging off the trailer, some slack in the chain that may be dragging. And I tell them all the time, look, you're going to get into a hurry sometimes, and you're going to think, oh, I can do it this way, and it'll shave off a couple minutes. The problem with that is if that thing shifts or if the thing falls off or you wreck, that couple minutes doesn't make a big difference when you're in the hospital or there's a huge check that's going to be sent to your family, or a bill that's going to be sent to your family because you were negligent. But the main reason was safety.
You said there. Well, hold up. The thing you said there, this is the way, not a way. This is the problem I have with a lot of small businesses, right? It's like, well, Jim does it this way, Bob does it that way, Tommy does it this way. Okay, let's get the three of them to figure out the best way of all parts. Because in every situation, there is a best way to do something. That's it.
Yeah.
And that's the company's standard. The problem is when you don't document what the best ways are, you could have one person taking 10 minutes, another person taking 5 minutes, another person taking 2 minutes, and forgetting half the steps. Well, it's like, okay, let's get all these people together and figure out, okay, hey, the real answer is 5 minutes, and this is how you do it. And now the company's standard supersedes the individual person. You expect the people to contribute to develop the standard in the process, and then the company owns it. It's theirs. You as the owner, operator, leader within the organization, your job isn't to write the standards or come up with the standards. Your job is to document the standards, ensure that they're being followed, and train accordingly. Train new employees the standard and retrain as needed.
Yeah, and I think a lot of that, we were taught that early on in the military, right? A lot of the bullshit that we hated doing in the military, when we became business owners, it made so much sense because you're like, holy shit, now I understand why they're so petty on inventory checklists, how many times were you up all day and night when you're doing armory check-in, armory inventory?
Oh my God. Yeah. Right. And you get one weapon, one serial number that's off, and you got to start from the beginning.
Yeah. And that's the thing is, during the time that we were doing it, it sucked. You're just like, this sucks. This is bullshit. But when you own a business, man, you're like, hey, I need 6 different colors of electrical tape. I need about 10 rolls of each, because I'm going to color code every effing thing in every truck.
Yeah.
Because I want to make sure everybody is well equipped. Because you're the one paying for it, right? You're the one who's responsible for all that stuff, and not just the stuff, but the people in charge of it. So I think having systems in place now is a perfect time to do it, by the way. So for those of you listening, we're recording this. It's February 20th. Okay. And for most people in the junk removal space, this is not their busiest time of the year. And a lot of people have questions like, hey, how do I produce during downtime? How do I stay productive? Productivity does not always mean revenue or income. Productivity is like, hey, how can I take care of my business, because springtime's around the corner and I'm about to be slammed. And the last thing I want to do is just catch up all the time. Well, now's the time to start putting these systems into place, start actually saying, hey, I have a right-hand man. I don't have any employees yet. Well, that's perfect, because now he can help you, or she can help you put these systems in to where you start getting people in. That person's in charge of not just training, but now going through the employee handbook, going through the processes. Hey, when you show up in the morning, this is the first thing you do. Before you leave to go home, this is the last thing you do.
Yeah, this episode's going to come out in March-ish, mid to late March. And this is the time, if you haven't already, this is the time to define and refine your processes, right? There's a methodology of freeze and unfreeze. When you're in the middle of the season, right, there's all these times where like, oh, that would be great, but we're busy. Oh, I would love to do that if I had time. This is the time to do it. This is when you can be unfrozen, be malleable, change up what you need to change up, and then refreeze when it's the right time. It is that simple. And then you say, hey, here it is. When we talk about our SOPs, the way that we do it from an operational perspective, it is a Google doc, whatever the equivalent to Word document is, right? I don't love it, but what I do like about it is the fact that anybody at any time can go in there and change it up. So I'll save versions of it. Like every 6 months, I'll save a version of it that here's our SOPs. And then I'll get a new one, a rolling document. And then I'll look, what are the changes? Did we update these things? What do we need to update? What's a process that we haven't looked at in a while? We work with Jobber, for example, our operations software. Every 2 or 3 months, they change something within Jobber. And sometimes it makes us more combat effective. Last week, I was running operations last Tuesday, and I implemented, they have auto text messaging. So, or not auto text messaging. We've always had that, or we've had it for years, but text messaging where they give you a phone number, Jobber populates it, and then you use the phone number to communicate with your customers. Now, here's the beautiful thing. Instead of it being a physical phone, it ends up being basically a chat window on your browser. And for me, it is faster for me to type on a keyboard and keep my thoughts there and attach pictures than it is to do it on a smartphone, right? It's physically larger, it's simpler, and it's simpler for me to have this ongoing conversation with a person versus, oh shit, I'm on the phone. Like we use cell phones. When you're on the phone, it's difficult to text someone. But if I'm on the phone with one person, I can be chatting up somebody else. So now you can also look at your processes and say, okay, our processes are frozen unless something from the external changes. Like our guys are like, oh, why did we change this? It's like, well, this is why. Like in Wisconsin, I don't know if you guys have this, Casey, but in Wisconsin, we have road restrictions during the thaw. So basically from March 15th until April 30th, as the roads start to soften up, there are certain trucking routes that we can't take. Basically, if it's a trucking route that has asphalt surface, we can't drive on it during the thaw because the ground is soft. Yep. What's that?
Yeah. So down here, we don't have that. I mean, obviously, it's surprising because y'all's trucks aren't that heavy, right? But you also have
doesn't matter. We still have that here. Trust me, I had a $1,100 fine last year because one of our guys drove down a road he shouldn't have drove down in the first place. But on top of it, it was spring thaw.
So we have something not similar to the road, but we have something similar that kind of is seasonal here. During the summer times, we have a lot of burn bans. So we'll have fire restrictions, burn restrictions. And you'll also see signs out saying, hey, no idling. If you're in a diesel truck, no idling. Right?
Really? Do you think that your muffler is going to catch something on fire?
Well, it's no, because now all these new diesel trucks, they have the, where it does a regen. So it'll crank up the idle and it'll get really, really hot to burn off the exhaust. And what that does is it gets hot ash. Well, I mean, any little piece of it can get blown out of the exhaust and catch something on fire. So they'll have, no regen areas. Normally it's around the landfill area, like on the outskirts where there's a lot of grass.
Yeah.
And also a lot of, anywhere there's a lot of big fields, stuff like that. They'll have these signs, no regen, because truckers do it. And then diesel trucks, even pickups, they have regions on the new diesels, obviously, because of the DEF and all that bullshit. So yeah, it's a fire hazard. That's pretty much it. I mean, as far as road restrictions, just because we don't have a season where it's ice all the time or snow, when we do, it's usually a week and it's extreme enough to where people aren't going to be on the roads.
Correct. And 1 week of cold is not going to freeze the ground. I mean,
right. But I will say
our ground's already frozen.
Yeah, and I will say a perfect example of, I like how you said you have SOPs on a Google Doc because you can always add to it, right, and switch things up, adjust for the environment. So I was in the infantry in the Army, and when I joined, I was immediately sent to Iraq, right? So all of our training was based on modern warfare, urban environments, stuff like that. Well, when we got orders to go to Afghanistan, our complete system changed. Like now you can't operate in a wedge formation because now you're gonna be going on these trails. You're gonna be ranger filing it through the field. So we had to train completely different because the environment changed. Well, it's kind of the same in business, right? Like if you're used to, all right, for instance, if you're used to doing a lot of trash, just residential only, the minute you decide you want to start getting more commercial or more remodel, customers, you need to implement some sort of standards or processes directly involved with that specific industry, because now you just change a lot of aspects to your day to day. And what I mean by that is we had, you remember the two tan trailers I had, those big tan trailers?
Yeah.
They're twins. Well, they're 6x12x6. The problem was they were 2.5 feet above the ground. They stuck up really high. So if you wanted to throw anything over the side, like you're 9 times out of 10 going to hit the top rail. So we started making sure that, hey, if we're going to use those trailers, we want to make sure it's more of, heavy duty stuff, loading from the back, not tossing over the sides. So we would always have the shorter trailers go for those kind of jobs because, hey, we know how it is. You have to switch things up a little bit. Now, when we started doing demo, we also understood you don't want a hoarder job or a demo job right before you go to someone's nice house and go inside their house and remove a couch, because for one, it could be decent stuff that you're going to be loading in that nasty ass trailer, or two, you're going to be filthy, covered in shit going into someone's house. So that's something like you said, we actually made our guys always have an extra pair of shirts in the trucks, booties, right? And I always told them, look, if you ever have to, let's say you do a nasty job, I'd rather you say, hey, boss, I need to come back to the shop and clean off before the next job, rather than just go straight to the next job looking like dog shit and smelling like dog shit, Yeah. Or
moreover, schedule accordingly. When we have demo jobs,
but there is some jobs where shit kind of comes up while you're there.
Oh yeah. You might hit correct, and then you have to have the conversation. So one of the things you said about the difference between running Iraq versus Afghanistan was you gave the why you had to change things up, and this is important. This is all about buy-in. If you want to get buy-in from your team, you got to start with the why. Simon Sinek has a great video about this, right? I'm not going to steal his thunder. Go take a look. Actually, Taylor can drop it in the wherever he drops shit in. But Simon Sinek's start with the why. Because when you're a leader, the challenge is often we want to give people the what and the how. Hey, this is what I want you to do, and this is how I want you to do it, without explaining the why. To get true buy-in, you start with the why, You explain the what, the end state, and then you leave it up to your leadership team and your guys in the field to figure out the how. So, for example, Casey, right, you can say, hey, guys, why, right? Let's start with the why. We want to deliver great, amazing customer service, right? We don't want to go into really nice houses smelling like shit and looking like shit and tearing up their damn floors, right? So what? I need you guys to walk into these houses every day. I don't care if it's at 8 a.m. or fucking 6 p.m., like it's the first job of the day. I want you to look as good, right? And then you do this thing called a full stop. You shut the fuck up, right? Because from there, it's their job to figure out how to do it. Well, guys, we should probably have booties. Oh, we should have a change of shirt. Oh, we should come back to the shop after that job because we know it's nasty. And now you're giving your guys the buy-in that most of them need, want, and desire, because now they feel like they're empowered. They're part of the solution. One of the challenges I've seen in a lot of these Facebook groups or guys that hit me up, it's like, hey, I'm a 1-truck, 2-truck operation. How do I get out of the truck? Well, it's like, well, how much empowerment have you done since day one with your employees? Yeah. And it's crickets. It's like, well, some guys are like, oh, I've done 150, 200 jobs by myself. And it's like, well, that's great. Do you want to be humping jobs the next 10 years? Because if you don't, that's 100, 150 opportunities that you missed training your replacement. Like, Mike, apparently, according to friends of mine, I pronounced Mike's name wrong. Mike Mihalowicz, whatever. Profit first, Mike. Mike M. Yeah, look at the book. Kalowitz. Man, I'm fucking missing a whole bunch of letters in there. Mike Michalowicz. One of the things he talks about in his book that we talked about is the martyrdom that we have as entrepreneurs. And I, first and foremost, I was guilty of it. I'm like, oh yeah, I've done 1,000 estimates. I've done 2,000 jobs. I haven't paid myself in 2 years. Look at me roar. And it's like, cool story, bro. Why the fuck didn't you pay yourself for 2 years? Why'd you do so many estimates? Do you get a fucking badge for all the jobs you did? And it's like,
I think people think pride outrules brains. And
no, doesn't.
The problem is,
I firsthand, it doesn't.
Yeah, exactly. Like, you should already be proud enough that you're fucking doing your own thing, but don't be stupid. I mean, if you're not paying yourself, that means you have no longevity in your business, because the second you want to pay yourself, you can't afford to. Because you've gone so long without doing it.
Yep. And if you think it's a badge of honor to bang out every job and be part of every job, well, that means that how you operate today is how you're going to operate every day. So if you have to be there, and the thing is, the best way to do it is to start that way. So for the listeners here that are listening that have never done junk removal, start day one training your replacement. Because the more jobs you do, the harder it is. Hey, we knew a J-Dog franchisee down there in Texas, and it was a husband and wife team, and the husband could not help himself and could not get out of the truck and wanted to be part of every job and wanted to bang every job and wouldn't hire a general manager to manage him, or a salesperson or a company president or whatever. And he was the limiting factor. It's like they had 4 or 5 trucks on the road, I think, at one point, but he still had to be part of every job in some way, shape, or form. And it's like, well, you only have so many hours in the day, and you will fail. If your goal is to get out of the truck and you don't train the people to get out of the truck, you will fail. And it is so simple for you to be like, oh, yep, I gave him the reins, and one time he fucked it up, and here we are, right? It's like, well, yeah, that's one way of screwing it up. Like,
I think also they
you train them, and you also let them fail.
Yeah, you have to. And look, I get it. It's especially when it's your name on everything. I get it. You don't want to have someone in there just totaling things, but at some level, you have to understand you cannot do everything yourself. At the same time, that one franchise in particular did not like to listen to their peers. They didn't.
Yeah.
Because I mean, they came in 6 months after me. I showed them the ropes, and they kind of went off on their own, and they listened to people in completely different markets and a state, all because they had a title rather than the knowledge that was necessary. Now, I also know a lot of times, and I hear this a lot, they want to be seen, right? Like, well, all my clients want to see, they want to meet me. That's fine. They can do that. Yeah. Doesn't mean you have to be, lead. You don't have to be the truck lead. Hell, if you want to go to a job and visit your customer, that's cool. But
show up, shake their hand, kiss their baby, 5 minutes.
I mean, get on with that's great. But just because it may seem cool in the first year to be a part of every job, that's not a good business model. That's how you get burnt out, hurt, Now your business is depending on you only. And if you're done, your business is done. And unfortunately that happened. I mean, that same franchise, they not just bit off way more than they could chew, but they did it without ever understanding, hey, how do we maximize not just efficiency, but profit with one territory before we jump to 9 or more? And that was the biggest issue. They couldn't even manage one.
Well, yeah.
Processes. So,
and that's part of operations. What is your market? I actually, so over the weekend, Ken, our president of our company, there was a job here in Milwaukee that was not in a neighborhood, an area that we go after. And the competitor was at $2,500 for this project. And I told Ken, I'm like, hey, based on what they're telling us, that's not us, right? $2,500 to us is basically 3.5 trailers. And so I'm like, not our customer, probably, right? And then they said pictures. I counted 6 trailers in the pictures. Now we're talking a $4,000 job, $4,500 job, right? And I'm like, we're not even the same ballpark. Now it was for a realtor that we've done with work in the past, and someone we want to work with. And then Ken goes and looks at it, and now it's like when he actually looked at it, he counted like 7.5, 8 trailers, and the guy was like, I got someone else that's going to do it for $2,500 because he's going to sell a bunch of this stuff. I can tell you, I looked at a bunch of this stuff. There wasn't much for resale, first of all. Second of all, in our processes, we price by cubic yard. So here is where the process worked. A, not our target market, because it's not the neighborhood that we want to operate in. B, we don't let the customers dictate the price of our goods or services. It is what it is. C, we don't do estimates on Saturdays typically, because if we're doing an estimate on Saturdays, that means the customer isn't prepared enough to be successful. And then D, once we did explain our price and it didn't make sense, they started telling us why we should change our pricing because of what could be resold or how the other guy does his pricing.
But you're not how we do our business.
Exactly. So it was beautiful because Ken, who's been with us for like 9 months, he's like he didn't know where the line was, and now he knows where the line is. And he really wanted the job. It's like, well, that's great. You really want the job. There's no point in doing a job. You're going to lose money or break even at best. So that's what I see a lot of times in these Facebook groups. I keep going back to it when it comes to operations. Every single time I see a picture that someone's like, how do I price this job? Well, what is your pricing model? Is it time and material? Well, estimate how long it's going to take based off of previous jobs. Estimate your time to and from the landfill. Estimate your landfill cost. Package it up. Put your margin that you need to make on it, and that's your price, right? That's your time and material price. If you price by cubic yards, take a tape measure, length times width times height, in feet, divided by 27, and you will get your cubic yards. Apply that to your cubic yardage price. Those are the 2 ways to price jobs. And if you don't know that, you're not a business, because a business has to be systematic, thorough, repeatable. And the third part there, repeatable without you there. Like with our guys, they know what a half trailer is. They know it's 8 cubic yards. If I ask them, hey guys, what is 8 cubic yards? They can tell me in terms of, commercial items, desks and file cabinets and things like that, or in residential items in terms of, appliances or furniture or boxes, right? They know about how many boxes take up a cubic yard.
Yeah. I mean, how many times you drive somewhere down the street and you see some shit on the side of the road, you're immediately half trailer, easy, 3/4, easy, whatever.
6 cubic yards. But here's what it comes down to. Operational processes. And the thing is with operations, day one, you're going to be like, oh, this is how I'm going to run my business. And by day 100, you'll be like, all right, I don't know shit about nothing here and here and here. Right, here's where I got this part down. And you adjust. I'm 7 years into it. And earlier today, there was a phoner that came in, and I was in the operations office, and it was a question I never answered before. I'm like, all right, cool. But we figured it out. Mm-hmm. So it's like, for people that are like, actually there's that one kid who's selling his junk removal, follow me or whatever, take my class and you'll make, 6 figures in your first month, whatever bullshit he's spewing. And it's like, junk removal is
St.
not
Louis.
this. St. Louis, is that where he's from? The junk king? All right,
no,
whatever.
It's like,
yeah. Like that's great. You can get fucking sales and marketing, but if you piss all your money away because your operations are crap, or you're not doing your pre-trips and you got to spend so much money on fucking maintenance, or you're not training your guys to safety, and you're spending all your money on insurance claims. Like, marketing and sales are great, but that's the first 2 of the 6 buckets of business.
Yeah,
Like there's four more things. The next bucket is ops.
And operations, the reason why operations look at anything that requires operations. I mean, look at the military, look at police, look at the fire department, right? When they're doing operations, when they're training operations, how extensive is that training? It's because it's important. That's why it's so extensive. Now, when you go into the admin side of things, like with the fire department, hey, like, here's the rules. Like you're in a classroom, you're falling asleep, trying to stay awake, what have you. I'm not saying those aren't important too. But there's a reason why the environment of learning those things are completely different when it comes to actually training operations.
Oh, yeah. Let's look at that. That's one thing. We both work for the government, and I'll be the first one to blame the government. There's two things the government does really, really well. They have a process for everything because everyone's replaceable, and it's probably daunting. It's probably 13 more steps than it needs to be, A. And B, especially when it comes to, police, fire, EMT, military, training. And it's not OJT. Like the first time you pull the trigger in a weapon system, it ain't in Iraq. I tell you that much. Right? Because you got to be able to train in a controlled environment. Same with the fire department. That's why they have controlled burns and they have, house, or they have whatever, the firehouse. Like we have one where it's like all concrete, 3 stories, and they're in there like once a month training. And that's after they go to school.
When you were down here.
What's that? They were doing training?
Remember for the first McDonald's job, I think, or the second or third, you were down here in Roanoke. We went and ate barbecue. And at one point, I think you pointed out, like, hey, there's a big-ass fire in the distance. Like, look at all that smoke. And I was like, oh, that's just them training at the airport. They have a 3-story building over there. Yeah, that's what they do.
Was that barbecue we got that time? Was it good? I don't remember.
Joint. Actually, no, that was. I think we went to Baja. Yeah, we had Tex-Mex.
I don't remember that. Oh, you know what? Maybe I had those brisket tacos. Maybe it was both. Yes. Is that the place that's the place I've gone to with you more than once, right? We've been there a few times. Yeah. In the little downtown. Oh no, hold on. We did have barbecue. No. That time I came down when we did Rono. I came down. That's when I had that the bologna, the smoked bologna that was terrible. Like,
oh, that was the barbecue joint.
That was that night that we went there with with Monica and Rylan.
That's right.
Levi wasn't around yet. Yeah.
No. Where'd we go?
We went to it was a barbecue place right across the street from Baja. It's that same little downtown area.
Okay, so it's probably Heartache.
The pit. You knew the Pitmaster. Walk in.
That's right.
Pitmaster was on the right. We sat in the back left corner.
You get the bologna, and I was like, what's
bologna? Dude, the bologna was so disappointing. Well, here's the deal.
Bologna.
I'm gonna throw this out there. Actually, people that know me, even a couple of our listeners, that when I go out to eat, I always ask the same question, like, hey, if I leave here and get hit by a bus, what would have been a good last meal? I don't want this garbage like, hey, what's good? And you get, the waiter or waitress, and they're like, everything's good. And you're like, no, fuck you. I don't like. No, it doesn't mean I'm going to order it, but I want them to have some conviction as to what they're telling me would be a great last meal. And those guys were like, hey, you got to try the bologna. And I did, and it was not good. I'll tell you what. You actually asked that
to a lady at the restaurant in Raleigh when we had dinner with all those other guys, these younger dudes that invited us to dinner. I remember you asked the lady that.
Dude. And I had fried chicken in my hotel room left over from lunch.
That's right.
Like on my way to dinner. Gosh. I ate so much fried chicken, and I had fried chicken and biscuits all week. God, was it a good week. Man, Raleigh knows their food, don't they, Casey?
No, they don't. They know their biscuits and fried chicken.
Dude, no, I had good barbecue that day. Yeah, that was the thing. Like, they're like, I ordered like 2 or 3 meats at lunch, and Letty's like, you're not going to be able to finish this. And I was like, I'm going to throw this down. And then I did not throw it down.
No, so I had fried good chicken. Barbecue to you is not saying much coming from Milwaukee.
It ain't. It is not saying much. That's
like if I told you, man, I had some really good cheese curds when I went to Oklahoma.
I'm like, no, you didn't. Yeah, no, you didn't.
No, you're like, no, you're out of your mind.
For lunch today, I had cheese curds and fried chicken. That was my lunch today.
Oh my God,
here's the deal. Good. I fast. We're way off. See, we're way off topic.
This is operations.
That are still on. Yeah, this is operations. Well, hey, you want to talk about operations? I am committed. This is my health. Like you were talking about keto. You and Monica are going to do keto and cut down your sugars and carbs and whatnot.
Yeah.
Here's some operations for you. I choose not to control myself when I eat. Right. So when I eat what I want. Right. Because I do what I want. I'm grown. So I do, though, in fact, control when I eat. So I implemented this like 6 months ago.
Well, hold on. To be fair, you're very limited on what you can eat, and just and like you can't eat the number one thing that's causing me and Monica to go on this keto thing, right? Sugar.
Yeah. I've already got sugar. Yeah, so, I have an advantage. Yeah, dude. If I could eat and drink everything I could, there's no way I would be able to pass a PT test or in the military.
Absolutely.
I'd be 400 pounds and hammered drunk all the time, probably. I don't know. I don't drink that much. But I don't drink that much because all I can drink is vodka and shit beer.
Miller Lite.
It's Miller Lite. Pabst. Pabst is my beer of choice. Miller Lite, because it's tough to find a Pabst. I know. Dude, when I was in Southern California a couple of weeks ago, could not find me a Pabst. I finally got to Orange County. And I found me a Pabst at this little shitty Irish pub. It was a local joint. It was not touristy at all. Anyhow, my point, I'm getting to something here with this operations. I am committed to sleeping 8 hours a day. In a perfect world, I would sleep from midnight to 8 a.m. Doesn't always work with business and life, so it's closer to 11 to 7 or 10:30 to 6:30. Anyhow, the other thing I do is I fast. What's that?
I'm a 6 hour guy.
I shoot for 8. The other thing I shoot for, because I learned this in the same seminar on how to not die, was fasting minimum 5 days a week for a minimum of 14 hours, which a lot of people are like, oh, that's crazy. Well, it's really not, because I'm sleeping 8 of those hours. Mm-hmm. So last night I worked on my house yesterday on Sunday. So I didn't eat for the first time until like 3:00 in the afternoon, which, I was jonesing at that point. But from 3 until 7 p.m., I ate as much. I just ate everything. I fucking threw it down. I stopped by my mom and dad's. So my daughter in town, so we just went and stopped and saw them. So my mom loaded me up with some leftovers. I got back to the house. I threw it down, whatever. I didn't eat after like 7 p.m. last night. I didn't eat until 11 a.m. this morning. So like 16 hours, not a problem, right? And again, because I have operational processes even in my personal life, my calendar dictates everything. And yes, there is a point of struggle, like 8, 9 o'clock in the morning. I am jonesing. I am hungry. And I push through the hunger pains for like 30, 45 minutes, and I'm better on the other side. This is no different than operational processes. Like, yes, do you want to have a checklist you got to write every day? Yeah, you probably don't want to. It's probably a pain in the ass. It's 5 minutes of your day you don't want to. However, those 5 minutes a day, that 25 hours or 25 minutes in a week that you're going through your checklists, I guarantee you saves hours and hours on the back end. Making sure you have the right tools, making sure all your tires have air in them, making sure you got a spare tire on the truck, making sure you got a clean shirt.
Remember,
pre and post. That's what I'm saying.
Pre and post, because post is how two things you confirm that everything is good to go, but you're also making sure the next day, like you're ready to roll, or the guy in front of you is ready to roll. No, but it's his responsibility to do his pre-checks as well. Just like a weapon. If I hand you a gun and you don't lock and clear it, that's on you.
That's on you. Correct.
I can tell you it's empty all day, but you need to lock and clear that weapon.
The person handed it to you should show that it's clear, and the second person should visually inspect and then physically inspect it's clear. It is that simple. So one of the big things, I'll tell you this, one of the big issues we had in our fleet for the longest time was guys not fueling up. Guys would not fuel up at night.
Oh my God.
Right? So I had to beat it in their heads.
Quarter tank rule.
Oh.
Like if it's a quarter tank or less, that driver needs to go fill it up.
Oh, no. We even broke that down. You need to fill up every night. That was it. Every truck, every night gets filled up. I don't care if you put $15 in, because you don't know how far that truck's going tomorrow.
True.
Or what we've also had is we've had trucks where it's like half or a quarter full, and then we take it to a mechanic, or we take it to get wrapped, or we take it to get oil changed. Right, and then it gets parked again, and the next guy gets it, and there's a fucking quarter tank. And of course, the day that there's a quarter tank of fuel is the day that you're running late and your first job is more than 30 minutes away. Because that's how Murphy works, right? Murphy's a mother. He sticks his stupid head up every now and then just to remind you that you don't know shit about nothing in this entrepreneurial life. So, like, for me, every truck, every night. And again, when you're a solopreneur, when you're rocking jobs by yourself or rocking them with a temp, it is simple to be like, oh, yeah, let's fill it up. Like, you're individually responsible. You're not thinking twice about it. Develop the processes now. When there is one person in the truck, it is very simple to train. And then every time you get someone new, you train them. If you got 8 to 10 guys and you haven't even thought about it and everyone's just doing their own thing, you have a mountain a mountain in front of you now. You know, the other thing I had a couple guys from Newport Beach call me last week talking about a consulting opportunity. I think they reached out to you too. But one of the things that they were talking about was like, oh, we're only 2 people, so we just figure it out as we go. I'm like, no, this is the time to figure it out and document it, because once you start hiring employees and it's not their business, they will play dumb, or they will be dumb, not even play dumb.
And to clarify, that's not the wrong answer. That's just the first chapter of the story. So it's 100%. Okay to be like, hey, we got to figure it out as we go. Absolutely. Don't stop there.
But once you figure it out, write it down and then train it in the next person. And then the other thing is, this is something he said, and I hear this also. They're like, well, I'm not where you're at yet. And I'm like, I know, I got it. I wasn't where I'm at when I started. I've learned all this shit. 13 years of doing this, 7 years-ish, 5 really of the last 5 of the last 7 years doing it full time. I have learned shit. I'm giving the answers to the test. Keep them. Operate the way I'm operating today, right? It's about running your business that you want, not the business that you got. If you run a business that you can take a vacation and money comes in, you got to figure it out now. If your business revolves around you, my father and I talked about this yesterday on a roof. My dad's 66, going to be 67 years old by the time this episode comes out. He is a one-man operation. If he takes off to go hunting, he doesn't get paid that day. If he goes on vacation, he doesn't get paid that day. If it's crap weather and he decides that he's staying in because it's not worth it to be on the roads, he doesn't get paid that day. He's accepted that. He only needs to work about 100. Right. He only needs to work about 100 days a year, 125 hours or 125 days a year to make the money he needs to be successful. Right now, when we were all kids, he had to work like 300 days because he worked every Saturday. Correct. Be content. If you want to work 100, 150 days a year and make good money and have a little business that revolves around you, by all means, God bless. But don't come in the groups and bitch that you're not where you want to be yet when you haven't changed your mindset, when you haven't put the processes in place to be combat effective when you're not there. That's what processes are. It is a way for your business to continue to produce revenue in your absence. And I would argue when you get a team of 10, 12, 14, 18 guys, there are collectively better ideas among the team than what you came up with. You might have got it in one place, but you need the team to take it to the next level.
Plus, you got to understand they may have worked for other companies that learned different things as well along the way. I don't know if you remember this a couple of years ago, Andy. I was still, hucking junk, but I told you why I was getting out and what I was doing next while I was doing it. It was because my goal was to work 15 days a month. That was it.
Yep.
I was like, I want to work 15 days a month. I don't want to work anything more than that. So in order to do that, I have to do A, B, and C. Now, fast forward to today, I can proudly say I have a lot of freedom now, and I work as many days as I actually want to rather than need to. But it took a lot of grinding. It took a lot of learning. I still to this day am learning other things from other professionals. But the biggest thing was systems and processes are in every single profession you can think of. And in this one right here, you got to think junk removal has a lot of moving parts, not just the truck portion, the people. People is what makes or breaks your business. And if you could simplify even one action, then why wouldn't you? And for all those out there that are just 1 or 2 people, you said it. Now is the time, because here's the cool thing. Let's say you're in your second year and you're like, yeah, we're doing okay. But then bam, for some reason you get popular. People are just calling you forever. You get a huge rush. Well, you hire someone in. They don't know what the hell they're doing. You hire another person in. They don't know what the hell they're doing. Now you got to take time out of your busy season to teach and train them. Meanwhile, because you're doing that, you don't know how long they're going to be sticking around. So they may be saying that this sucks, man. Like, man, I can't do this every single day. I don't want to kill my back every single day. And then they bounce after 1 week. Now you're doing it all over again. So when you have these processes in place, you teach it to one person, right? You keep doing that. And then you have that person teach it to the next and to the next. You hold them accountable for the standards. But if you're not doing it now, what do you expect to do when you need to do it? Because you're going to be building your business around your current situation. And it's just it's a very bad idea to think we'll just figure it out when we get there. In year 2, there's no like, oh, we'll see what happens. No, it's like, hey, look, we're either going to get fucked or we're going to be prepared.
Correct. Year two is the probably the most critical year in junk removal. And when I mean year 2, I mean year full 2, right? So you got your first year, you start whatever, May, June. A lot of guys start in spring, right? And then that year is like money comes in, hair's on fire, everything's good, right? And then going into year 1, first full year 1, you're like, all right, I'm gonna bring an employee in or 2. I'm gonna see, I'm gonna figure out what areas of my business I can fire myself, right? Whether I bring a salesperson, an operations person, a fleet commander, you're going to hire a second person to do one aspect of your job, right? And then year 2, so really it's your third year in business, second full year, that's when you make it or break it. That's when you either get stuck in the truck, that's when you cap out at 2 trucks, right? Or that's where you expand, you go from 2 trucks to 4 trucks or 5 trucks. Because at that point, you put the processes in place the first 12, 18, 24 months to put you in that position. If you've done nothing but bang jobs for 18 months, and then you're going to be like, oh, I'm just going to hire 6 guys, they're going to run my 2 trucks, and I'm going to sit back and answer the phone. What, a week, 2, 6 at most, you're going to be back in the truck. Because half of those guys are better. Are they going to get fired because they're not up to the standard that you really didn't set? Or quit because you're holding them accountable for something that you didn't set.
Yeah, and we're not trying to stress everybody out here. We're telling you, like, look, to best prepare yourself for the shit sandwich that is people.
Dude, this is honesty.
Yes. And that's the thing. Yeah, because the other thing, and this is one thing I truly think is the most important thing, is turnover in this industry is insane. And we are past the days of 2 weeks notices. Yeah, you may get one, but dude, I'm gonna tell you right now, for 6 years, for 6 years, I don't think I ever got 2 weeks notice except for my right-hand man, Paul. When he actually left, he gave me a 2 weeks notice that he wrote in his truck after being with me for 3.5 years. I was like, you know what? It's better than what I'm used to. I'll tell you this, turnover is what will really test and just make you think of, man, how could I have prevented this from really happening next time? Because there's never a trend. And a lot of times in this business, I don't know if it happens to you, Andy, up there, but down here, especially if they're here for a while and they get some friends that they work with, when they bounce, they may take their friends with them. Because if they're, hey, man, this guy wants 3 guys. He's offering $2 more an hour. And then next thing you know, instead of losing 1 person, you lose 3.
You're down a truck. Yeah, you're down a whole truck.
Holy shit. Yeah. So this is exactly why systems and processes are key, because if you don't implement this now, turnover alone will fuck you. No, and yes, you need some systems for turnover too. You need a process for hiring and firing.
Well, yeah, great. Great. Well, here is something I have been guilty of in the past, and how do I say this right? I used to suck at hiring and firing, and now I have Ken, who's got an HR background, so that we are better at it. This is what the book says, and I can tell you, is as complicated as this might be, there's a reason. This is one of the few lessons I live by that the book says. Hire slow, fire fast.
Yes.
And in order to hire slow, you get to plan this out. Not only we talk about in the business operations, right? Make sure you have a checklist, make sure you do this, make sure you do that. We talked a couple of weeks ago with Mike on Profit First, where you get to decide how much profit do I want. You get to decide that, right? That's a process. Hide money for yourself. Don't spend it. Here's the other thing. You get to decide when you develop your team. If you are hiring when you need it, you're already behind the 8 ball. You got to look at your business, build out your pro forma, again, plan, and then say, okay, this is when I need to bring the next truck online, right? And I need to bring it either this time or when I hit these revenue triggers. Typically, I would, the advice I give, the recommendation I give, if you are a 1-truck operation, when you hit $10,000 3 months straight, that's when you can start looking at a second truck, right? And then when you get to, if you're at 15, even 20 for 3 months straight, that's when you need to already have added the truck. And added the truck doesn't mean you start the process. Added the truck means you pull the trigger, i.e. you already hired the guy, right? When you're at 10,000, you hired the third guy. So your number 2 and 3 guy roll with you every day for 30, 60, 90 days, however long it is. You get the financing lined up. So as soon as you're ready to pull the trigger on that second truck, you hire it and you got 2 guys already trained and they can run the truck trailer, whatever.
Yeah, and I would even take it a step further. I would take a step further, always be hiring. And always be having full-time people? No. But you need to always have someone in your bullpen.
There you go. Look at the NFL. Every week they're making roster moves, right? Guy gets dropped on a practice squad. They say, you see sometimes in the NFL, they'll sign someone and 3 days later they cut him. It's like, well, why'd they do that? Well, they might have brought him in. Maybe someone got hurt on Sunday and they thought it was 6 to 8 weeks. And by Wednesday, they're like, oh no, he's good. Yeah. Or sometimes even at this, and I've seen this like in the NFL, sometimes that you see this, especially in preseason, when a kicker in a shitty season, they'll draft some rookie kicker to have a kicking competition just to keep the old guy in line, right? Like, and sometimes it works. Sometimes the young guy outkicks the old guy, and the old guy gets the boot.
And then we hired him back a year later.
Oh my God, your kicker, old PAT, the guy couldn't hit shit. Golly. I thought Jerry Jones was going to go out there and lace him up at some point.
That one game, everybody was like, I've never seen a group of people PATs? Turn on someone so quick. Like, not even for Dak. Everybody was like, yeah, kill this guy. This kicker needs to go now.
You know what? Someone recently on the VIP listener was like, I love your podcast, but for God's sake, stop talking about the Cowboys. Yeah, here's the deal. If we're making fun of the Cowboys, it's fine. Yeah, he's a huge Eagles fan. Here's the deal. Here's the problem when you miss a PAT. You know what? And I'm gonna you stick around long enough, I'm gonna tie this back in. Right. When you miss the PAT, is you got the touchdown, you're all excited, and you miss the PAT. You get more upset about losing 1 point, or not even losing, but not getting 1 point than you are excited about getting the 6 points. And that is no different for me than when our guys go out there and do a job and make good money, but then have to double back because they forgot tools there.
Yeah.
Or we got a crap review, or we charge the wrong amount.
For me, it's tire maintenance 100%.
Yeah. Something that just drives you nuts. Like, and
because
this is why, right?
We spent almost $20,000 a year on tires. And it's because we were never afraid to get tires. So it wasn't an excuse. Oh, hey, why didn't you change that flat? Well, no, here's why. You wanted to go home early. That's what happened. You wanted to screw the next guy instead of staying an extra 30 minutes and swapping that out. And then that way we could take it to discount and got it fixed. Now we got to stop everything in the morning.
Oh, yeah, we had a truck for a while there where it's like the same guy drove the truck like 4 or 5 days in a row, and he kept filling it with air every morning. And, and he knew about it. Well, what happens? He's off one day. Next guy comes in, doesn't fill it with air because sees it's like kind of low, but not horribly low.
Yeah.
Gets out there halfway through the day. Now we're changing the tire on the side of the road.
Kick test.
And all it was a patch. Correct. He went around, and you know what the problem is? When it's cold here and there's a little bit of snow, you're like, you don't see it. And again, you didn't look for it, right? So it's like a double failure. I was more pissed at the guy that was like, oh, yeah, I've been filling it up every morning. Why don't you say something like, hey, I've been filling this tire up every morning? Yeah. And again, process. There's got to be a process in place where people are like, some guy's calling me. Who's this? I don't know who that is. All right, there's got to be a process in place where people have a way to document, or A, that they have to check, first of all. Second, that they document deficiencies with the truck. We had a daily, we still do, albeit it needs work, a daily checkout where you went to operations, right? Here's my money, here's my this, here's any issues I had in the truck. And also, is there anything going on with that truck that we need to know about? It's a question during your checkout. And now if they say no, now we know, okay, well, we had the process in place. If they failed to identify at that point, that's either they're incompetent, right? Or they're inaccurate because they didn't do their check. Like, there's a reason why they are failing. And that's the important point of processes. Holding people accountable.
Truck leads, yeah, holding people accountable. One of our truck leads, the best. So how we did it was you have our operations manager, right? But then like the number one truck lead or whatever, in order to kind of give him more responsibilities, one of them was maintenance. So once a week, I would need a maintenance report for every truck, and it was his job to get them from the drivers, and then he would report it to the operations manager and so.
Oh yeah.
And we always carried 2 spare tires per trailer, right? I know everybody's like, that's a lot of fucking tires. Well, yeah, when you're going through them, might as well have an extra one. And what we did is we just had our welder buddy weld on an extra tire mount on the other side of the trailers. But if one spare was used, the process was, hey, we changed the tire, whether it be in the morning, the middle of the day, whatever. Immediately, we had an area you put the flat tire. Because what happens is the next day, Altman would go and get those tires and take them to discount, get them patched or replaced, bring them back. It was a fluid system. You didn't have to deal with the tire after you changed it,
Nope.
but you still needed to put it in the right spot.
Yeah, because correct. And then there's not this big long conversation. Altman comes in during his daily walkthrough. He sees tires there. He knows that's on his priority list, right? Drop them off in the morning, pick them up in the afternoon, whatever that looks like. And again, Altman was the guy, right? The problem is a lot of businesses, especially owner-centric businesses, like, well, this guy does that guy does that, right? No, it's the process or accountability. It's like, well, the operations officer manager isn't getting on the guys. They're holding them accountable, and they are the person behind the process.
Yeah.
The challenge is we live in this world where people want to live below the line, right? Below the line is when you're blaming people, when you're not taking accountability, right? That's below the line kind of shit. Above the line is taking responsibility, holding others accountable, and also taking personal responsibility. And I'll tell you what, when you got employees that hold each other accountable, right? So if operations is holding the fleet accountable, you know what fucking happens? That fleet will hold operations accountable. Because now it's this piston match, right? Between the two departments. And
which
I'll tell you what, as a business owner, I fucking love that piston match.
Yeah, like absolutely.
Because you get sales involved, right? You get sales involved sometimes. And like, let's say we do a job and it goes really well. Well, sales are going to be like, hey guys, you did a great job. Like, hey, way to kick ass on this customer. And then operations will be like, yeah, go get us more fucking, or fleet will be like, hey, go get us more jobs like that. Like it was a simple job. We got a tip. The people were cool, whatever it was. Right. And now you get this culture, this atmosphere of accountability, and it all starts with processes when you build out your company.
Well, and that's the thing that's why delegation's huge, because notice I said I had my top truck lead was in charge of maintenance. Was he in charge of the crews? No. But he was in charge of maintenance, which means when he comes around, he expects your maintenance sheet to be filled out correctly. And if it's not, he has that authority to escalate that, hey, back to the operations manager or whatever. And that's the cool thing is you start doing that with your teams. Altman, no offense to him, great guy. He wasn't in charge of anything except his yard and the warehouse. So whenever you step foot in his world, he is in charge. You listen to what he says, because if you're in the yard and he tells you to put it somewhere, you put it there.
That's right.
He tells you, hey, take this back up to the front warehouse, you do it.
Well, that's no different than the military. Man, I couldn't stand headquarters and maintenance platoon.
Supply and oh my gosh.
In supply, they because you had an E4 wielding authority that you couldn't believe, right?
Over everybody.
Everybody, right? There's an E6 or E7 in supply, in fucking maintenance,
you don't give a
right?
shit.
Chris, that's it. He ain't the one you got to butter up, right? He's the one you make a side deal with, a little drug deal action, right, to get a new Gerber. But if you want your shit,
Oakley's.
you want or you want to front load your platoon over the other platoons, you better butter up that E4 that yields way more power than they should. And I never understood it, but it's like there's a reason. We actually had this really good female. Her name was Boke, Specialist Boke, and it was BOUC. So she always say Boke like Coke. And I remember I always got along with her really well. And when she was in supply, because I was a platoon sergeant at the time, she's like, Sergeant Weins, you know what you got to do. You got to do this, this, and this. And it's like, I would play by her rules because she had a job to do, right? She had inventory she didn't keep track of. But it's like, if I would just shut the fuck up and listen to her and follow, I would get what I wanted. And it's no different in your junk removal company. There's a reason why Altman was in charge of the yard, because he was particular and he was anal and he was good about it. You got two choices. You can either lean into that and work with that, or you can fight it. And when you fight it, you create so much more work. This is the working harder, not smarter aspect. And
plus, who's the owner going to have back? Like, who's going to?
Great. Well, here's the other thing. I'm also speaking of the owners here.
Yeah.
Well, here's the deal. If you're the owner and you hire someone to hold you accountable or keep the yard up, you can't be the one that breaks the rules. You can't be the one that has special exceptions. Because then everyone's going to say, hey, if fucking Casey doesn't have to do it or Andy doesn't have to do it, I don't have to do it. So when you hire those people, you got to have them. Again, they answer to the organization, and you as the owner, you answer the organization. You aren't the organization.
Yeah, if you're out there, do as I say, not as I do. You're that's that piece of shit, man. Like that, I hated that in the military, and especially when I saw it in small businesses, And I'll tell you this: the two most important positions to me that required the most level of trust was number one, my operations manager. Number two. My yard and warehouse guy, Altman. And the reason why is because I could leave whenever I wanted to, for however long I wanted to, knowing those two guys can run the business efficiently without me.
Yep.
And it required trust. Now, Altman, you met him. Is he the best? No. But for me, he was the most trustworthy. Because if he fucks something up, he immediately lets me know, hey, I fixed it, but I fucked this up. Or I fucked this up. I'm in the process of getting it, fixed.
Yeah, there was no guessing.
That goes a long way.
All right.
That's good though, man.
There we go. We beat the operation source. After an hour of us yelling, you don't understand the importance of building your operations from day one. Well, there's no more convincing I can do. Right. Casey, top takeaway from today.
Top takeaway: systems and processes. Look, it's not pretty, but it's a necessity. And just to make this even go further, any aspect in your business that you have, any service, any back end process needs a system, right? So whether it's recycling, whether it's, hey, we do construction cleanup, we do skid steer, whatever, hiring, fire, anything, it all needs its own system that goes along with your company's processes in order to run efficiently. And when you have the most time is usually when you're not making the most money. That's also the best time to start putting these in place.
Yeah, refining them, defining them. And my top takeaway, and this is something I have to remember even with my business, there's not a way, there's the way, right? And that's the thing. You have to develop processes where it is singular. This is the way we do things about this. And have enough flexibility within that vernacular to allow people to figure out how to do it. The what cannot change. The how has to be adjustable and adaptable so you get more buy-in from the guys on the front line. That's it. Another episode of Trash Talk Business Podcast in the hopper. Next week, we got a guest coming up if they show up. But as always, thanks for joining us this week. Come on, hang out with us next week on the Trash Talk Business Podcast. We are rounding the corner with episode 50. We're almost 1 year in. We'll do a 1 year celebration episode 52, that'll be out in April-ish. So a couple things. Listen to next week's episode. Come visit us May 1st through the 4th at the WasteExpo. And if you haven't already, follow us on the Trash Talk Business Podcast VIP listeners page on Facebook. For Casey, Bubba, Lawrence, I'm Andy Weins. We'll see you next week.